Good morning. Welcome back to the Cultural Hangover. I hope you all are staying warm. This ice storm has swept across everyone in the middle of the United States. So we're all kind of hibernating right now. So we're just going to dive right into it. Today we're talking about the chaos with ice. What's the latest with that? We have an interesting and fun Michelle Obama montage and the death of acting. So we're going to start with the heaviest story first because it's also the longest. You've probably seen the videos of protesters storming a church, a place of worship, protesting in a church. Super inappropriate. This was not an act of bravery. It was not principled. And by the way, not protected by the Constitution. It was very entitled. It was deranged. And it was illegal. And I'll go ahead and show you that clip. If you haven't seen it already, check this out.
Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Don't shoot! 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 Shame! Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? You have no comment. Exactly.
All right, that's enough of that. So as you can see, these people are menaces. The Constitution protects free speech. It protects peaceful protest. It does not protect trespassing. This guy filming he's a menace. Like, he's getting up in people's faces and yelling at them, like, in the middle of a church service. And you also don't have a constitutional right to disrupt religious worship. And you don't have a constitutional right to hijack a sacred space because you think your cause is more important than someone else's faith. That's not how this works. That's not how it's ever worked, actually. In fact, the freedom to worship in peace was one of the foundational reasons this country exists in the first place. People crossed oceans and fled governments and built communities so that they could worship without interference. And now, in 2026 America, we're supposed to accept activists storming into churches as if it's some kind of normal civic engagement. And, this is a double standard that I think everyone sees, but of course the media doesn't want to say it. And, these protesters would never do this in a mosque. They would never interrupt prayer in a synagogue. They would never barge into another religion's sacred space and scream these slogans because they know there would be consequences, social and legal and otherwise. But Christians are expected to be passive and silent and infinitely patient, always turning the other cheek, even when people are literally up in their face, spitting. And this expectation is such a lie. Christians are not pacifists by default. And by the way, we should stop acting as if we're pacifists by default. Christianity is not weakness, and defending your church, your congregation, your right to worship peacefully is not immoral. And I'm not calling for violence, but I am calling for strength. Strength looks like knowing your rights, and also refusing to be bullied out of public life. and not just sitting and taking it, and these disruptions, like I said, they're not justice. They're about literally defending criminals at all costs, even if it means trampling on innocent people and sacred spaces and fundamental freedoms. A society that protects criminals while harassing worshipers has completely lost the plot. So no, it's not free speech, it's trespassing, it's harassment. And it's also a test to see how much Christians will tolerate before they finally say enough. And, this kind of treatment is not something that Christians or Americans in general should be accepting. And there's also another layer to this. The protests themselves, the media framing, and the constant use of this emotionally manipulative language. All of it is feeding a hero complex. People have been trained to see themselves not as citizens in a functioning society, but as main characters in a dystopian movie. Everyone thinks they're in Les Mis. Everyone thinks they're in the Hunger Games. Everyone imagines they're bravely resisting the regime, standing up for truth and justice and all that's good. They're not resisting injustice. They're resisting law enforcement doing its job. They're actually resisting justice by trying to protect criminals. Some violent, some not, but criminals nonetheless. And that resistance, blocking deportations, shielding criminals, harassing and assaulting officers, disrupting churches, now we can add that to the list. It's what's creating this chaos in the first place. This really isn't that complicated. You don't see this level of unrest in red states for a reason. It's not because people there are less compassionate. It's because those states allow law enforcement to enforce the law, including deporting criminals. So when the rules are applied, when the rules are clear and applied consistently, society functions, okay? When activists, these so-called activists, interfere and the media cheers them on, things break. And the media plays a massive role in this delusion, which is why a lot of the times these days I get my clips from X, because YouTube, you can hardly find anything. These mainstream platforms, you can hardly find anything. You go on X because it's not as filtered as everywhere else. So you can actually find different angles of things. Back to the media though, news media, you have the recent example of the 5-year-old boy. Oh, ICE kidnapped this 5-year-old boy and is deporting him and they're using him as bait, whatever. That story was a bunch of bullshit. The story was everywhere. People read the headline, they got outraged, the usual cycle of things. And almost no one, except people who are obviously awake to how often and how much the media lies, hardly anyone bothered to read what actually happened because the truth didn't fit this narrative. The truth, the child's father abandoned him in the street. He literally left his 5-year-old son in the street and ran away from ICE. So the ICE officers were standing with the boy so he wouldn't be left in the street in the cold by himself, okay? And, but, the lie that ICE is evil and predatory was amplified nonetheless, not because journalists didn't know better, but because outrage performs better than the facts. And this is how you end up with crowds convinced that they're moral heroes while actively making their communities less safe. That leads us to Alex Preddy. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Preddy. Let's say Preddy. A man whose name is all over the news now, more so than any of the women and children who have been brutalized and murdered by illegal immigrants, by the way. Isn't that strange? Anyway, I tried to find a clearer angle on X of what really happened, because usually you can find one, of what happened during that whole tussle. Surprisingly, I couldn't find one. Usually you can debunk mainstream narrative pretty quickly by going on X, where everything isn't filtered and you can see what really happened. But unfortunately, I could not find a good angle to see what happened super clearly. I do encourage you to try to find one if you can. But details and timing aside, the main thing I want to say about this is that more than one thing can be true at once. Because we see this like, oh, it's black and white. Either ICE is evil and this man was innocent, or this man was evil and ICE is innocent. I think we can acknowledge that ICE officers can make mistakes. Sometimes they make the wrong call. Sometimes they could go about neutralizing a threat in a different way. Not saying that's what happened here, because again, I could not find an angle that I'm confident in video-wise of what really happened. But I also think that we can agree that Alex's death was tragic and it shouldn't have happened. Simultaneously, it is a fact that Alex's intent was to impede law enforcement. It wasn't about peaceful protest or holding up signs. His intention was to do what Tim Walz and these other Democrat officials are telling their followers to do, to use their bodies to prevent ICE from doing their job, sometimes violently. Tim Walz is literally out there telling people that ICE isn't even law enforcement. What? And people like Alex Preddy are listening and inserting themselves between law enforcement and criminals. That's not a debate at all. ICE is there to deport criminals, some violent, some not. But if you came here illegally, that is a crime. So 2 things can be true at once. We can acknowledge the humanity of ICE officers and their potential for mistakes and bad calls, while also acknowledging that Alex Preddy would be alive right now if he was actually peacefully protesting. And then this gun thing comes up, like, oh, he was carrying a gun. Legally, as far as I'm aware, he was carrying a gun. And I think it's unwise to cite that as a reason for ICE shooting him, because we on the right should be defending our right to carry, right? 2 things here. Number 1, why did he have 2 full magazines of ammo? If you're carrying, okay, fine. Let's say it's a precaution for self-defense, whatever. 2 magazines of ammo? It feels like it had a little more intention there, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel. Second point, did anyone else notice how quickly the left is now defending carrying guns and encouraging each other to arm themselves? This feels so incredibly orchestrated. And I saw this suggestion on Twitter that that Trump should offer illegals citizenship if they vote Republican, just to see how quickly Democrats rewind and decide that they actually don't want these people in the country anymore. I find that pretty funny, because we all know they change their mind so fast because it's just orchestrated. But even so, the fact remains that every single one of these people needs to be deported. I do think violent criminals should be prioritized, absolutely. But the baffling thing about this is that even the violent criminals are being defended by these people. We're talking about rapists and murderers. Some of them are not violent, but violent or not, you came here illegally. You committed a crime, and you shouldn't be here. I have sympathy for those illegals who have been law-abiding otherwise, but there's a reason we don't have open borders, as you can see. There's a reason there is due process for entering a country that is not yours. And we shouldn't be ignoring all of that just because we're supposed to be nice to everybody. And please stop with the Bible verses on this. Welcome the foreigner. Jesus was an immigrant too. It's so faux Christianity. Jesus was never an illegal immigrant, okay? Let's just get that out there. No, didn't happen. He was not an illegal immigrant, okay? Also, we can be nice to foreigners while also demanding that they follow the law. That is not unreasonable, okay? Defending criminals does not make you a vigilante for justice. Storming churches to demand that criminals stay in the country doesn't make you Katniss Everdeen. It makes you someone who has been emotionally manipulated into confusing chaos with courage. Real justice isn't dramatic all the time. It's not cinematic. It doesn't come with applause on social media. Real justice often, a lot of times, looks pretty boring, actually. Laws being enforced, criminals being removed, communities being protected, regular people just like trying to live their lives in peace, including in places of worship, or maybe go on a run without being kidnapped and murdered by people who aren't even supposed to be here. So no, this isn't some noble resistance movement. It's entitlement fueled by the headlines and ego and a desperate need to feel like a hero in a story that doesn't exist. These protesters are not fighting injustice. They're cosplaying it. They think they're in the Hunger Games, bravely resisting the system, when what they're actually doing is blocking law enforcement from deporting criminals who aren't supposed to be here. That's not heroism. It's delusional. Storming a church, defending criminals, it doesn't make you righteous. It makes you someone who fell for a headline and bought into whatever the outrage is for the day. So stop cosplaying revolutionary, sit down, shut up, and let law enforcement do their jobs, okay? It really is that simple. Okay. Before we move on to our fun little montage of Michelle Obama, I want to tell you about Amalo Tallow. Oh, guys. I know some people say that they use products from sponsors every day, and they don't actually. They're just saying that. But I literally use this every day, like morning and night. First thing I put on my face in the morning, last thing I put on my face at night. Tallow, just all natural. It mimics your skin barrier, so it balances out whatever you've got going on. And it's multi-use, which I love. So you can use it on your body too. It's a great moisturizer. And they've got really great scents too. And they come out with new scents every now and again. And they also have other stuff, lip balm. I use their dry shampoo now, which is awesome because I was using an aerosol Dove thing that just like makes me cough because like I spray it and then you breathe it in and it's like, ugh, like it's so bad. But this is better. Okay. It's still got the pump, which is nice. I like the application. But it's not an aerosol that's toxic. And it works great. And I have dark hair and it doesn't make my hair white. So we love that. So you can go to amalo.com/hangover and use code hangover for a discount. Do it because they've just got so many great things. And by the way, you're supporting small business, which is also a plus. So go do that. All right. So Michelle Obama. God. Some people love her and I don't get it. I don't get the hype. Sorry. I was never a fan of hers, but the first reason I disliked her was because I remember being in school when Obama was president, and all of a sudden you couldn't go back for seconds for fries. Like their portions got cut down because Michelle Obama wanted kids to be healthier or something. So that was my first beef with Michelle Obama. But then I forgot about her for a long time. And then now she's like some influencer or something, like fashion icon. I don't know. Anyways, she's worth tens of millions of dollars, draped head to toe in designer brands and living a lifestyle fueled by elite institutions. She goes on these podcasts and talks about stuff. One thing, I guess we'll start with the one where she's talking about brands and how it's actually a longer clip, but I'll just show you part of it. she was talking about how we need to think about the designers that are in our closet. Okay. We need to think about supporting Black companies, because white companies, they're just too supported. Like, we need to get away from that and go more to designers who are Black or people of color. All right. So, like, imagine if she said that the other way around. Like, imagine if someone was like, I think you should think about how many designers are white, maybe get rid of the ones that are like designed by Black people. Imagine the outrage. Like, that'd be wild. Let's see. Check that out.
If I hear of someone whose fashion that I like and I know that they're a person of color, I try to make it a point. But the clothes have to be available. Right. You know, I think we can all do some work to think about that balance in our wardrobes. You know, what does our closet look like and who's in it? Mm-hmm. Who are we supporting in it?
Right.
You know, and I think if you have the money to buy Chanel, then you have the money to buy everybody.
Right.
And so let us be mindful, I think would be my advice.
Yeah.
If I hear of
in other words, if you might have too many white designers in your closet, you guys. That makes you a bad person. Okay? Who made your jeans? Who designed your shoes? What identity do they have? What's their race? Apparently this is important. This woman who can afford anything. And it's honestly, it's not even about affordability. It's about this holier than thou kind of demeanor that she has, which bothers me a lot. Okay, Michelle, you don't get to shame people for shopping at Target when your outfits cost more than their monthly rent. And, you know, she also, as I mentioned, goes on this podcast, Call Her Daddy podcast. It's about branding, you know? She's like, think about the balance in your wardrobe. Are there enough designers of color? Maybe you have too many white designers. You should think about that because we need balance, because that's the right thing to do, you know? It's all so just so blah, you know? It's her branding. It's such a cringe brand move. This identity-based consumer guilt. It's such a luxury, like, rich people belief, you know, like, and for some people, it really is about affordability, and they're not really like, no one cares who designed the graphic on your shirt. Like, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? And Michelle Obama's like, you should think about that. Meanwhile, a mom is choosing between groceries and gas. They're not asking, ooh, is this Walmart brand morally pure? She's asking, can I afford this right now? Or do I need to wait till the next paycheck? And what makes this especially insulting is the assumption that underneath it all, normal Americans are somehow ignorant or careless or morally deficient for not curating their lives, thinking about the balance of designers in their closet. Like, this is such a rich people concept. And people are like, and everyone, you know, in the circle around Michelle is like, yeah, you're right. This is so important. This is what people are thinking about. It's so out of touch with the experience of normal people. Okay. The same people, you know, Michelle, who flies private and wears exclusive designers and is untouched by inflation. She wants to scold you for buying affordable clothes rather than the right balance of designers. It's just so, it's so out of touch. Well, the moral audit never ends with these people, and it's hilarious. The next clip I want to show you, Michelle Obama being iconic, you know, not in a good way. This is we'll go with the second one. she hates white people so much, and everything's about race with her. And I just like, why are you thinking about white people all the time and how you're victimized when you're literally a millionaire or billionaire or whatever, but like you're still so oppressed? I don't know about that. Let's listen to this next clip.
Bald. Our hair comes out of our head naturally in a curly pattern. So when we're straightening it to follow your beauty standards, we are trapped by the straightness. That's why so many of us can't swim and we run away from the water. People won't go to the gym because we're trying to keep our hair straight for y'all. It is exhausting and it's so expensive and it takes up so much time. Braids are for y'all so we can work harder and focus on the work. So why do we need an act, an act of law to tell white folks to get out of our hair? Don't tell me how to wear my hair. Don't wonder about it. Don't touch it. Just don't. It just...
Guys, wasn't her hair straight in that clip? Like, she's like, straight hair is for white people. Straight hair is such an act. We straightened our hair for white people. What? What are you talking about, Michelle? Are you telling me that you have no say in the way that you style your hair as a millionaire with multiple stylists? Your hair is straight and you're talking about how straightening your hair is basically racist because I don't even know, you guys. And by the way, did you know that black people can't swim because of white people? Because water makes their hair curly. What is this logic? I'm so confused. And by the way, straightening your hair is expensive and time consuming and above all, racist. Of course, Michelle cannot get over this. Lastly, we have another iconic clip from Michelle on the Call Her Daddy podcast. The cringe is next level. And, you know, this one's less about race, but more about how she doesn't like to be associated with her husband. Check this out.
I was a dean of students. I was like, oh, you guys, all of that just disappeared in the course of this whole election. And you now see me as just Barack Obama's wife. So that made me say, what, that quickly, my shoes become the most important thing about me, right? And again, not unique to me. It can happen to the best of us. So I shied away from fashion leading the conversation, but I knew I didn't completely control it. So let's lean in. I was a dean of students.
Oh, okay. Your husband was president, but somehow it's weird that people know you as his wife as opposed to a dean of students? Okay. Also, what is this idea that it's bad to be associated with your husband? I mean, sorry, I know this is like a feminist concept or something, but like, why is it bad to be known as your husband's wife? Doesn't really sound like a very healthy dynamic there. But you know, Michelle being Michelle, this is just a bit of a lighter story that I wanted to throw in there just because the news cycle is so depressing, you know? And switching gears here to the pop culture world for another minute. I saw this story last week where Lucas Grabeel, who played Ryan in High School Musical, if you don't know who that is, bear with me, don't worry. The actual person isn't as relevant as the situation. But this article is actually a couple of years old on Pink News, and they just reran it, probably because my algorithm said it was a good time or because the topic is trending or something. And the article is basically, this guy was interviewed and he was talking about how he probably would not take the role that he took in High School Musical again if he had to redo it today, because there are so many, quote, this is a direct quote, there are so many amazing, talented gay actors who could do it as well. I would love to, but I just don't know. The last thing I want to do is take that opportunity from other people, and as a straight white man, I know that even without trying, I have taken opportunities away from people. Oh, Lucas. That quote makes me want to vomit. It's so beta. Can we please bring back men and women who don't apologize for what they look like? How ridiculous. Like, let's be serious. If actors are only allowed to play characters who match their real life identity, acting is over. You're not acting. You're just being yourself. No imagination, no transformation, no art. Gay actors play straight actors constantly, and no one complains. In fact, it's a great thing. But a straight actor plays a gay character, and suddenly it's like some kind of erasure. It's some kind of phobic because you're not allowing a gay character to play a gay character. That's not fairness. That's just like a weird double standard. And we see this everywhere, not just like with sexual identity, but also with race, right? Rachel Zegler plays Snow White. She's Latina. Snow White is defined by snow white skin, and they don't even make an effort in the makeup department to make her look like Snow White. We're going with this like tan Snow White, like, but if you say anything, that's like racist, you know. And Naomi Scott, who played Jasmine in the live action Aladdin, gets attacked for looking too white, even though she's literally half Indian, so it's accurate, but like she's too white, you know, she should be darker skinned. This isn't about representation, it's about power, as usual, and the rules only ever run one way. So the first premise is that actors should only play characters who share their real life identity, otherwise it's harmful. Okay, premise 2. Acting is the art of pretending to be someone you're not. Okay, if premise 1 is true, acting itself is racist or homophobic. That's not a clever argument, okay? Once you start trying to enforce identity matching within the acting world, you don't get better representation. You get fewer roles, narrower stories, people playing carbon copies of themselves because anything else is some kind of appropriation. At that point, Hollywood isn't casting talent, it's casting demographic boxes. And again, notice this inconsistency. Neil Patrick Harris has played straight roles for years. No outrage. Jim Parsons played straight characters, no apology tour. Jonathan Bailey plays straight roles all the time. No one says he's erasing anyone. But if it goes the other direction, it's erasure. It's homophobic. It's excluding a minority. No one claims straight men were erased. No one says it's harmful because everyone understands this is what acting is. It's pretending to be someone you're not, stepping into a character that you're not, with traits that you do not have in real life. So if a character is traditionally white or straight, race and sexuality don't matter. Okay? If a character is non-white or gay, suddenly race and sexuality matter a whole lot. And if you notice this contradiction, you're some kind of racist or phobic. This is so stupid. It's the same mindset that killed Halloween, right? If you're dressing up as someone who's a different race than you, you're appropriating, or you're erasing, or you're being ageist or ableist or whatever the hell ist. And pretending is like treated as some kind of theft. Creativity shuts down. That's the end game. People can't dress up for Halloween anymore unless you're dressing up as yourself, because that's appropriation. Apparently acting is offensive now, and this is how acting dies. It's so sad. So sad, you guys. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you all have power. I have a wood burning stove in my house, so I am very grateful for that setup, just in case things go south. But stay warm, stay curious, and I will see you next time.